Well, Naledi, good morning. And as you say, this, of course, very much in its infancy in terms of this particular subsector in the whole project in terms of energy production and the like. And you speak of some of the takeaways. Of course, we're talking about the major infrastructure development projects that were mentioned. We were told that 19 had been identified, of which 9 have already been gazetted. And that is, of course, where we will train our eyes on to see exactly how they will be rolled out. I'm particularly interested in the time frames for all of these. And, of course, as you would know, job creation for a myriad of South Africans who find themselves outside of the employment stakes. So we continue to speak to various stakeholders and investors as well here at the summit. And it's interesting what they all bring to the table. And joining me now is, of course, Mr. Masupa Mushweshwe, who's Green Economy Specialist in the Office of the Presidency. Just to give us a little more in terms of some of the flashing out of these projects and the infrastructure development overall that we are likely to see. Mr. Mushweshwe, thanks so much for stopping by.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So let me just get it from you first. In terms of the overall spectrum, what are we looking at in terms of the total investment potential for green hydrogen at this stage?
So I think it's sort of important that we focus our mind on 2050. It seems a bit of a long way away, but there's sort of immense strides that we need to make in the next 10 years. But the potential for green hydrogen is transformative. It's potentially an element that can touch multiple sectors, drive reindustrialization in South Africa. Some of the numbers around what the impact could be if we realize our full potential, we could as a country produce 6 to 13 million tons of green hydrogen a year. About 5 million for domestic and about 8 million for export purposes.
And in terms of the time frames, because I think that is ultimately what we are concerned about as South Africans, because if we're going to turn around our economy and the trajectory of where we're going with the unemployment rate, these infrastructure projects are going to be key.
Sure. In order to be able to reach that potential of 13 million tons by 2050, we need to prove ourselves against global competitors by 2030 as a reliable partner, a place that can produce green hydrogen competitively and land it economically and commercially at export markets. So by 2030, which is just 7 years away, we need to have developed about 6 gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity. That's around 12 gigawatts of renewable energy that would power it. That's double what we have as installed renewable capacity over the multiple bid windows that we've been running for more than a decade. So in the next 7 years, there's going to be a massive ramp up, and that ramp up is only the beginning of the journey. It's really what is a proving ground for us to the rest of the world as a reliable partner.
And of course, just as we wrap this up, 9 of these projects that have been identified, 19 identified, 9 have already been gazetted. Where are we going to see the first sod turning? Where are we going to see the start of all of this?
So I guess an important context is that all these projects everywhere in the world that we're talking about, only one of them is in construction, and that's the NUM project in Saudi Arabia. The rest of them are going from pre-feasibility into feasibility studies. One of the most advanced is the Priska Power Reserve. The IDC has taken a 50% stake in it. They're expecting to reach financial close by the end of next year, go into construction in early 2024, and start producing green hydrogen by 2026, which is immensely exciting. But there's also the opportunity from a South Africa perspective to transition some of our dirty or grey infrastructure to green. So Sasol has an electrolyzer at Sasolburg that they're transforming to produce green hydrogen as early as next year. And that investment is more than R1 billion.
I'll tell you what, we will follow up on all of these. I have a plan to go and see all of these things, follow them through, and make sure that South Africans are taken along this journey. Mr. Mushweshwe, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And of course, speaking of Sasol and what will be happening there, and this is to quote from what the president had to say yesterday, we envision a 2,500 kilometer pipeline from Ludritz all the way to Saldanha, with a T-junction all the way to Secunda as well. In fact, this was the minister from Namibia who had that to say. My apologies there. And if you think about it, Ludred, Saldanha, Secunda, it's something that the mind, needs to comprehend. And this is the scale of infrastructure development that we are talking about. But of course, we'll keep you up to speed. We have every intention as SABC, as the public broadcaster, to keep you abreast of these developments, because this is one, as we've been saying continually, it's in its infancy. It's one that, if we get right, can really change the trajectory of the country. So from the Cape Town Centre, the Summit for Green Hydrogen here at the Century City Convention Centre, we hand you back to the agenda team. Thanks, Naledi.
Thank you, Sakina. Some very big discussions taking place there with Sakina Kamwendo bringing them to us at the Green Hydrogen Summit.